Hello and welcome to the People's Pod. I'm David,
I'm Lawson.
and Lawson, I guess today the big news is Trump's big ugly bill that he signed. I think there's a great deal of irony in this, Lawson. He signed this terrible bill on Independence Day.
Yeah, for sure. This big ugly bill, it does not celebrate our independence in any way, shape, or form. It's just liberation for the billionaires, if anything, not for you and I, the average people.
And further irony,
Mm-hmm.
right? Trump's behaving like a king, right? And
Exactly.
the day we celebrated yesterday was honoring revolution and independence from a tyrannical king. Is nobody seeing the irony of that? Are we the only ones?
I feel like we are, honestly. So many people have forgotten about the context of Independence Day. The people were being taxed without representation. That's why the people were so mad in the 1700s, and they wanted taxation without representation. You know that phrase, no taxation without representation. And they wanted to have representation in the English Parliament, which the English denied, and so they revolted, and of course the king decided to clamp down on it.
That's it. That's the story in a nutshell. So, Lawson, what I pulled up, this is
Mm-hmm.
California Governor Gavin Newsom held a press conference. It was Wednesday or Thursday of last week before the vote, and his office is calling it the Big Beautiful Betrayal. And alliteration works, by the way. That's how people can remember it. So I thought maybe we'd just hit a couple of these slides, and it's going to affect Californians pretty seriously. We don't need to go through every slide, but just kind of wading into it. So Medicaid coverage loss, depending on whether you like the Congressional Budget Office numbers or the Urban Institute or the Center on Budget and Policy Priorities, millions of Americans are going to lose Medicaid coverage. So I don't know why the Trump administration has this war on old people and poor people, but that's what it looks like, right? And we knew this. Everybody knew this going into the vote, that a lot of Americans are going to lose coverage.
Even the Republicans in the House and Senate, but they're just too scared to actually say anything. They saw what happened in 2017, 2016, 2018. Republicans like Jeff Flake, John McCain, they got ran out of the party the moment they stood up to Trump. So they're just too scared to lose their jobs.
And interestingly, there were two Republicans that joined Democrats to vote against this bill. One of them is Massey, right? He's from Kentucky, is he?
It was, I think you're thinking of Thomas Massey and Senator Rand Paul, I believe it was.
No, but they have to look at it as Fitzpatrick or Fitzgerald.
I have to go check that.
Yeah, let's see. I had it here.
I know 3 Republicans voted no. The fourth one, Lisa Murkowski, voted yes.
Here we go. Yeah. By the time the resolution hit the House floor, down in here it told us the 2 votes against it. Anyway, the point is, Trump's out to get Massey's head now.
Exactly.
Right? So you just dare not go against the emperor.
Yeah, stand up to the king, you're going to get run with the Republican Party.
That's it. So, now, so this is Gavin Newsom's office, Governor of California, zeroing down into impacts on Californians. And, this is the irony. And are there any MAGA voters out there who are watching this that are realizing they've been hoodwinked by Trump? California rural counties are going to be hammered by this bill. Up to 3.4 million Californians at risk of losing health coverage, some $28 billion at risk in federal funding. That's going to have to either be made up somehow by the state and counties, or we'll have to go without. And we'll see hospitals, clinics closing, all kinds of things. Yeah, so the other thing, a work requirement paperwork and 6-month eligibility checks, right? So every 6 months you have to fill out a raft of paperwork to maintain your benefits. And then, work requirement paperwork, right? And this is widely perceived as the bill and Republicans making the eligibility requirements so onerous that people just won't fill it out. Or of course, pages and pages of documentation, there'll be errors that you get kicked back. So some 3.4 million Californians are expected to lose health coverage just from paperwork requirements.
Right, like I've done paperwork for multiple things for a job, for school, and it's all just very arduous and just very frustrating, just in general. So I can only imagine people losing healthcare coverage would be the elderly, and the elderly are not very savvy on today's modern day what's we're looking for processes to get their healthcare coverage and that sort of thing.
Yeah, people are going to die as a result.
Mm-hmm.
All right, if you're in California, enrolled in Covered California, you're probably going to see monthly premium increases, right, for nearly 2 million Californians. And this comes from the State of California Department of Healthcare Services. So Newsom's office professes that they've done a whole bunch, they've run the numbers on this bill, and this is largely coming from their analysis. People are going to see increases in the premiums for sure, whether it's 2 million or more or fewer. People are going to see increases. Now this is what I find really interesting, because we know across the country, rural counties in California and other states, rural counties tend to lean Republican. And this is, I don't know, you know the Reddit group, Leopards Ate My Face?
Yep.
You know about leopards eating my face, right? This is where people voted for this, and then they're going to get bitten. So again, this is from state of California, total Medi-Cal enrollment by county. So you see the Bay Area here, San Francisco, LA down here.
Look at the lower end.
Yeah, and look at these rural, right through the Central Valley. 64 Medi-Cal enrollment by county, percentage of total population. 64% of the population is in Medi-Cal. So there's pretty strong alignment between rural counties that voted for Trump and people who are going to get hit hard by this bill. And by the way, it's not like nobody tried to tell anybody.
Yeah, the left has been telling the people and the administration this entire time about what would happen if this bill were to go into effect, and sadly it has, and no one has listened to us. And well, the people who supported this administration will, suffer the consequences from it.
Yeah, well, and we tried to tell them in the election,
Yeah,
right?
exactly.
I mean, Trump was pretty clear who he was and what he was doing, and nobody wanted to hear in the election. Nobody wanted to take him at face value, and now, now look at this, right? All these counties are going to be impacted, right? Distressed rural hospitals are going to be impacted. So if you live in rural areas in California, you're going to have a problem getting health care.
Yeah, exactly.
300 million state loan program is going to be impacted. Now, I don't think we need to go through each county, but here's Tulare County, right? Representative Valadeo, right? California 22nd District, right? This is just going to be, right? These hospitals are going to close, right? I don't know where people are going to go for health care. They're going to drive to other counties? This is crazy. UC Berkeley Labor Center forecasts that the bill is going to cost up to 217,000 jobs. I mean, if you close clinics, if you close Planned Parenthood offices, if you close hospitals, you're going to put people out of work. Right, and here's, this slide represents Trump's aggressive, cruel, just for no other purpose other than to be cruel and racist and xenophobic. His targeting undocumented immigrants, right? Whether they're here lawfully or unlawfully, he's going after them. Right, so $4.3 billion is going to be taken away for that funding. Planned Parenthood, right? Of course, the Republicans.
They don't want Planned Parenthood because they support both abortion care and sex education and sexual health, and Republicans want to take that away. Keep the people less educated about sex and have more babies and make more mistakes.
So Lawson, I'm reading this book, The Kingdom, the Power, and the Glory by Tim Alberta. It's an expose of how white Christian evangelicals came to power politically, how they helped Trump get elected, and sure they helped Trump get reelected, and it's this strange. So the author actually grew up. His father was a pastor in Michigan. He grew up as a Christian evangelical, and what he's seeing is Southern Baptist Church, Christian evangelicals, they are conflating the gospel, they're conflating the kingdom of God with the kingdom of the United States. They're mixing up politics and religion, and he interviews through this book. He interviews people time and time again who are like, I don't understand it. We've lost our way as a church, right? We really should be preaching gospel. We shouldn't be preaching ivermectin for COVID, right? We shouldn't be fighting vaccines. But the Republican Party and members of the evangelical community have really done a great job from their perspective. I think it's terrible. A great job at convincing white evangelicals that they're being persecuted, right? That there's secular components of American society want to close all the churches and want to run everybody out, and there's no basis for it.
Yeah, I don't want that. Like, I do personally believe if you're a Christian, like, you should be able to practice. Just do not shove your values down our throat. That's all we ask.
Yeah, well, even that, right? I mean, Christians are expected to evangelize at a certain point, but I mean, look at this, right? Abortion. It's not just about forcing values down somebody's throat. It's about forcing values upon them, right? Getting rid of Planned Parenthood means that you can't get STI testing, right? It's hard to get abortion care.
Right.
You can't get contraception.
Cancer screenings.
Right, all this stuff, right? So this is, this is part of the Christian right, Christian nationalists, really trying to force their values on the rest of the country.
Signed by a president who can't even cite his favorite line in the Bible.
Right. Well, we know he's a hypocrite, right? All right, CalFresh, right? These are SNAP benefits, right? Almost 1 million Californians at risk of losing CalFresh food benefits. Now, you know folks in CalFresh, right?
Yeah, I know folks at CalFresh. I have worked through that process before.
Yeah. Right. Actually, it's interesting. We hear a lot about the tax breaks, right? So the average federal tax reduction from tax cuts in the Jobs Act, right? Look at the top 1% and the top 0.1%. These are the people who get the tax breaks, right?
Of course.
That gets a lot of focus, understandably, from the media, but what really hasn't, it seems that this consumes everybody, it seems, but talking about the cuts to Planned Parenthood, the cuts to Medicaid, the cuts to food programs, I don't think that's gotten as much discussion. I mean, this sums it up, right? And the crazy thing, right, is the Republicans like to present themselves as the party of fiscal responsibility. But this bill adds, what, $3 trillion to the deficit?
Yeah, something like that. $3 trillion to the deficit, which I will have to pay for later on when I get to your age, respectfully.
Yeah.
So that's gonna be a tax increase on me and my kids and my friends and family. So that is going to be a greater burden and a tax on me as a younger person.
And I want all you young people out there watching this to understand, right? Every time the deficit gets increased like this, it is a future tax burden. So you guys, like Lawson here, people in his cohort, you guys are going to be paying for it. And what are you going to be paying for, right? 1.1 trillion in tax cuts for people making over 500K annually. So you're going to carry that burden for these tax cuts, right? 300 billion in SNAP food assistance cuts, right? People are going to go hungry. People are going to die, right? Almost $1 trillion in Medicaid cuts. People are going to lose health coverage. It's going to be harder to access a hospital, access a clinic, even abortion care, right? Like, also, I don't know if you know the story of abortion, but before Roe v. Wade, and this is a terrible joke that persists, right? It's the coat hanger abortion, right? This is, the classic story of people resorting
to desperate measures
to get an abortion because you just couldn't, right? And people died. People died from coat hanger abortions. That's where he wants to send us back. This is the America that Trump wants to restore us to, right? It's terrible. Here's different ways of cutting the tax cuts, right? Really burdening lower income Americans to cut taxes for the wealthy, right?
Mhm.
Through tax cuts, right? Transferring taxes, and then all of these other spending cuts to make up the difference, right? Um, Again, I hope slowly the people who voted for Trump start to see how he was really. I mean, that's the betrayal, right? That's why the Newsom administration calls this a betrayal, the big betrayal bill, because it really has. He promised to represent these people, and they are getting screwed over.
Yeah, as we've seen in this presentation, that the hardest, uh, the counties that will be hit hardest, especially with Medicaid, are the rural counties where public transit systems suck, and you depend on a car, and you have to drive for a mile or two to get to the nearest hospital, or even to the nearest grocery store. So it's not going to be affecting the urban areas as much. Of course, it will be affected, but it's going to be hitting much harder in those rural areas for sure.
Yeah, and so then the question is, well, the first question is, are we going to have midterm elections next year? Will the emperor allow us to actually have democratic elections anymore?
I believe the emperor will. They'll try to restrict elections for sure, but I think we will have elections because elections are thankfully run by states. So we got 50 state rules about elections. Federal elections have not been federalized, at least not to a degree where the president alone can stop it, unless the Supreme Court, unless the Supreme Court comes out with something. Bless you again. So yeah, unless the Supreme Court all of a sudden says, "Oh yeah, the federal government can cancel elections," I do believe we will be having elections in 2026 next year, and just like 2018, I see Democrats, roaring back to power when that happens, because I really hope that people will see, just like they did in 2017, of the lies of this administration and Donald Trump himself.
Well, I've read estimates anywhere from 20 House seats to 40 House seats. James Carville, a longtime Democratic strategist, works with Bill Clinton. He's projecting a massacre, right? 40 seats swinging back in the House to Democrats. Fingers crossed. I don't know even if Democrats take the House, but they don't take the Senate. I don't know how they get this legislation changed, but they can certainly frustrate Trump's agenda. But I mean, really, are Democrats are they even organized enough to capitalize on this? There's been a lot of criticism. Yes, they don't have the votes, right? I get that. They don't have the votes in the House and the Senate to stop Trump. But why are they not on TV every single day with a microphone in their face, making Trump own everything?
Yeah, it's a really good question, and I personally really wish that they would. I really wish that representatives like Latifah Simon and other representatives from across the country would stand up and go before the cameras and say, look at what Donald Trump is doing. Look at what is happening to you guys. And there's also just a lot of splits in the Democratic Party. The good thing about the Democratic Party is that we have people from all tents and all camps. The issue with that, though, is that there's so many different opinions. There's people like Chuck Schumer, who are much more moderate and want to take a more of slow burn approach, let his poll numbers falter. Then there's people like AOC, who is and Bernie Sanders, who are going out across the country, saying on their their No Kings tour or No Oligarchy tour, who are saying this is what the administration is doing. This is what the administration is doing to hurt you guys, and this is what the administration is doing to help the rich billionaires as well.
Yeah, so I think the Democratic Party is still in disarray, frankly, because of those divisions, right? Super progressive people in the party want a more aggressive attack on Trump, and they believe best chances in future elections is a really progressive agenda, really progressive candidates, really pushing somebody like Bernie and AOC forward.
Mm-hmm.
And that's always been a tension because, and maybe it will change, but traditionally in this country, for better or for worse, right? It's been kind of centrist white men in the Democratic Party who pull things together, right? So I don't know if there's really going to be enough votes in the next presidential election for an uber progressive candidate, right? As nice as that idea might sound to people, there's just the practical reality of are there enough? Where does America live? Do they live really on the left, uber progressive, or do they live closer to the center? And when I say where do they live, I mean when it comes time to vote, right?
Yeah, who do they vote for?
Yeah, so the Democrats, I think they're still a mess. They need to settle on leadership. They need to be far more in the media. This was a great article I read a few months back. It's like they need to be out there, and Trump needs to own every bad thing. Every bad thing that happened. Did your local hospital close? That's Trump's fault. Did Planned Parenthood close? That's Trump's fault. Are you paying more for Cover California? That's Trump's fault. Lay everything on his shoulders. Do you see them doing it? I don't.
They're not doing that at all. There are some progressives like AOC, sure, but they're not loud enough, and also, frankly, I also believe the media is also partially to blame. Mainstream media, because they don't cover that. The mainstream media is trying to normalize everything that's going on in the Trump administration out of fear of retaliation.
Well, yeah, that's another problem, right? Is free speech gets chilled, right? He just struck. I haven't even dug into the article, right? Just a deal with Penn State, right? About you probably saw it. Penn State about trans athletes.
I remember hearing about that. Yes.
Yeah, I haven't been able to dig in to read it yet, but this is how dictatorships and authoritarian regimes coerce and corral people, right?
Mm-hmm.
Chill them, prior restraint for free speech, right? Suing the media. How many media companies has he sued? Ridiculously.
I don't even know at this point, but it's too many. He already banned the Associated Press from the White House, but the courts thankfully reinstated their rights to the White House. But the damage is already done. The media, like CBS, Fox, all the media chains have seen what happens if you cross Donald Trump. You're going to get punished, and even if the courts do come in and rescue you, the damage is already done.
Yeah. So it's a bad time, and again, so let's bring it back kind of where we started before we wrap up. Yesterday was Independence Day, right?
Mm-hmm.
Celebrating successful revolution from a tyrannical king, right? And I don't know. I did maybe you saw, but I certainly didn't see. I didn't see any mainstream media noting this weird contradiction between this bill being signed and everything it represents beyond the bill. Trump's authoritarianism, his fascism, coming on Independence Day.
I've not seen that at all.
Yeah, it's I told my partner yesterday. It's a sad day. It was a sad day to be a patriot.
Mm-hmm.
With this bill coming to culmination with the votes and Trump signing it on 4th of July. So, with that, I'm going to give you final closing words.
Well, yeah, like the big, beautiful bill, it sadly passed. We're going to have to live with the consequences for it. And respectfully, kind of told you so. The people who voted for this have sown the wind, now they'll reap the whirlwind.
Yeah. And it's really unfortunate because I think most of us would not really like all the negative consequences, right? It's kind of a perverse thing to say, right? Is if you voted for Trump, now you're going to get screwed, and good on you. I mean, that's kind of a perverse thing to say, right? I think a lot of us have some compassion for those people for being hoodwinked.
Mm-hmm.
But if that's what it takes to get them to realize the liar that he is and how he's betrayed them, well, maybe that's what needs to happen.
Yeah, like overall, I do have some deal of compassion for these people, and yes, I don't fully, I'm not going to fully blame them for trusting someone who they believe will make the country better. to pass legislation that they believe will help them. At the same time, these people have been warned over and over and over again, and they have seen what happened in the first administration. So, and I've seen what happened in the first administration. I lived through it as a high schooler, and so I feel like there's been so many warnings, so many opportunities for people to see what's going on. So the amount of compassion I have in general is diminishing slowly over time.
I got it.
Mm-hmm.
All right, with that, let's wrap it up. Let's close out. That's the People Pod for this session. I'm David.
I'm Lawson.
And stay tuned. We'll have some more analysis coming up for you with future podcasts.
Sounds good.
All right.